Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome author, filmmaker, and star of 9 5-minute videos, Dinesh D'Souza.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. I'm delighted to be here. What a great occasion. I know there are a lot of speakers, so I will try to adopt a motto that King Henry VIII used with one of his wives. He said, "I won't keep you too long." Before I indulge in an orgy of celebration, I want to say a word about Dennis Prager. He is, to my mind, that very rare thing, which is an indispensable man. It's a very rare label to apply to anybody. Most of us are quite dispensable. But Dennis stands for the permanent things, and he always has. And he has been immovable over the years. He is not only an inspiration, but everything he says is insightful. I find myself thinking about things he says years after I heard him say them. At one occasion, very casually, the topic of Jesus Christ came up, and I was interested to see what Dennis would say. And he goes, "Well, Jesus was the Jewish guy that God chose to carry the message of the Jews to the world." And I thought, what a striking and memorable thing to say, and I've turned that over in my head subsequently, I cannot tell you how many times. On another occasion, Dennis Prager and Christopher Hitchens and I were in a synagogue. We were debating Judaism, Christianity, and atheism. And Christopher Hitchens brought up these rather blood-stained passages in the Bible where God smites the Canaanites and the Amalekites. And then he turns to Dennis Prager and he says, "Well, how do you account for that?" And basically Dennis goes, "Well, never were there people in history who more deserved to be smited." And that stayed with me over the years. In fact, that guides my impulse right now in thinking about the Democrats. PragerU. When PragerU was first started, the idea of doing great ideas and important ideas in 5 minutes seemed to be on the face of it absurd. In fact, it seemed to be a almost shameful concession to the ADD nature of our culture, in which people can't possibly devote more than 5 minutes of their time to anything. And so it would have seemed, in theory, to be a project that would be consigned to simplification, bowdlerization, essentially taking important ideas and reducing them to platitudes and mush. But this has not been the case. Recently, I was reading an essay by the historian and philosopher Isaiah Berlin, and I think he conveyed why that is the case. Berlin said that the great ideas of our civilization, and this would be true of the founders, it would be true of Einstein, it would be true of modern day thinkers. He said the great ideas of our history and our philosophy and our political science are essentially simple. It doesn't seem that way, because if you read Hume or you read Kant or you read Hegel, it seems very obscure. But Isaiah Berlin's point is that their central idea is simple. The reason that these philosophers engage in all this elaborate rigmarole is because they build up a fortification against their adversaries, real and hypothetical. They're answering this guy who might raise this objection and that guy who might say that. And so you're presented with this complex picture, but the kernel of it is not complex. And I think that's what PragerU does. It gets sort of to the heart of things. It gets to the bottom of things. It gets to the the root of the matter. I'm also kind of remarkably impressed at the way that PragerU operates. I've done a bunch of videos for Prager. My wife, Debbie, who's here, has done 2 Venezuela videos for Prager. She's often pointing out to me that her 2 videos collectively have gotten about 7 times as many views as my 9. And, but in doing these videos, Alan Estrin, who has been my editor of these videos, has me write it out. And I told Alan, I think I can manage 5 minutes without writing it out. He's like, no, you have to write it out. So I send him a script, and then I get it back. And it doesn't just have an edit here and there, it has markings on every line. And I'm like, Alan, I mean, I've written 20 books. You haven't. I don't say this, but I'm thinking it. But I say, Alan, you've gotten a little happy with the editing pen here. But Alan goes, no, that's because the videos are so brief. You have to be very economical, very parsimonious, very precise with words. And so it has been. I was honored to do I did 5 videos for PragerU on the American founders, Madison, Jefferson, and so on. And so I said to PragerU, I said, we're dealing with the founders here. 5 minutes does seem to be a little tight. How about 6? This caused a major scandal at Prager University. In fact, I hear that the organization virtually shut down over this suggestion. Eventually, they agreed. I got 6 minutes to do these videos. And the wonderful thing about Prager, and my wife would say this too about Venezuela, her video has something like 30 million views. How do you achieve that? Well, the answer is PragerU is the transmission belt for taking these ideas and blowing them up, multiplying them, amplifying them, getting them out there, and that really makes all the difference. So here we are at this great moment. Trump is coming in. I don't know if you've seen the trucks outside a lot of these agencies now. They're unmarked, but these are defenestration trucks. And I'm at a PragerU luncheon. I don't have to explain what defenestration means. I don't have to say to you, it means throwing someone out of a window. I see some men looking around like, I knew what that means. And their wives are like, Myron, I never heard you use that word. Anyway, it's a new era. Trump is in. I particularly like his inauguration photo, which mirrors his mugshot. And I think that conveys the message. Well, it's the same message that was conveyed to the Mongols when Genghis Khan, after a few years of bloodthirsty rule, was asked what his philosophy was going to be going forward. And it was basically, no more Mr. Nice Guy. And I think that's going to be very much Trump's approach. I think back to when I first came to America. It was the end of the Carter era and the beginning of the Reagan era. And Reagan so memorably called it morning in America. It's a long way getting from there to here, but I think once again, after some very dark years, I don't even know if we call them the Biden years, they're maybe Obama's 3rd term, and that's the one guy who's probably sulking today. And one of our emotions, at least mine, in this complex mix of feelings, is a healthy dose of Schadenfreude. A little pleasure in Obama's misery. And a great anticipation for Trump fulfilling that ultimate vision of Reagan, which is to bring us a little closer to morning in America. Thank you very much.